Welcome back everybody, I'm Nick930, and this past week, PlayStation invited me out for a special event in Los Angeles to get some hands-on time with Insomniac's highly anticipated next entry to the Spider-Man series, Spider-Man 2. In addition to getting to play roughly 3 hours worth of the game, I also had a chance to sit down with Senior Programming Director Doug Sheehan, who answered a few of the many questions that I had. And in addition to my preview video today, I'll also provide a full write-up of that interview separately in the link below. Also, I'd like to offer a huge thank you to PlayStation for inviting me to the event. While this video itself is not technically sponsored, they did pay for my flight, transport, and hotel stay while I was out there. Now, without further delay, let's jump right in and start by taking a spoiler-free look at some of the story elements offered in the demo. So, the demo that we were given to play begins partway through the game's campaign, with Peter Parker searching the city to find a life-saving serum for his friend Dr. Connors, aka the Lizard, while also being tracked by the self-proclaimed greatest hunter in the world, Kraven. Meanwhile, Peter's new crime-fighting partner, Miles Morales, struggles to find a balance between his busy college schedule and keeping the community safe. According to Doug Sheehan, a major focus for the development of Spider-Man 2's story has been on balancing out these two characters, ensuring that either Spider-Man is given their time in the spotlight with full and complete arcs. Miles isn't just serving Peter's arc, and Peter isn't serving Miles. They both have their own major challenges, character growth, and progression to explore, and the demo that I played really helped to drive home this design choice. The initial few story-focused missions that I played pretty much involved only Peter Parker, as he worked alongside his friend Harry to help reverse Connor's reptilian condition, only to be interrupted by Kraven's goons. Then, shortly after, the game automatically swapped back over to Miles, where I was able to explore the city a bit and help track down some thieves stealing from a local museum. The Miles missions by comparison felt more grounded and reminiscent of classic young Spidey-style adventures, with more realistic groups of criminals and trying to keep the people of New York safe. Whereas Peter's adventures felt more late-stage superhero and dealt more with supervillains and city-wide destruction. Add on top of this the addition of the symbiote suit that seems to be directly affecting Peter's personality much like it does in the third Tobey Maguire film, and Miles' beef with the previously featured lead antagonist Martin Lee, and Spider-Man 2's narrative already feels as though it's off to a much more ambitious start, one that's both inviting to newcomers and full of fun nods for fans of both the games and other Spider-Man related media. It's very much staying true to the previously established formula, with both Miles and Peter throwing out lots of lighthearted quips during battle with their enemies, and a lot of heartfelt interactions between the many supporting characters. For players wondering how the character swapping works outside of the main campaign, it's handled very much like Grand Theft Auto V's character swap feature. When in the open world, players can open up the friendly neighborhood spider app and press and hold a button down to instantly swap over to another character. When I tried this, it took roughly 2 seconds, with the game fading to black temporarily while it loaded. It then shows a brief animation of the character doing something Spider-Man related, like relaxing on a web hammock between two buildings, before giving the player full control again. It's a very quick process, and occasionally the game will even swap between the characters faster during certain moments in the story, allowing for a seamlessly connected experience. Next, let's talk a little bit about the setting. As you may have already guessed, Spider-Man 2 takes place in New York City once again. Only this time, in addition to Manhattan, players are also given the opportunity to swing through a slightly narrow interpretation of both Queens and Brooklyn, including areas like Peter's old high school, Miles' college campus, and a few of the iconic areas you'd expect like Coney Island, Brooklyn Heights, and many more. This part of the map isn't quite as wide as the main Manhattan area, though it does stretch out further overall, and introduces a lot of unique traversal opportunities because of its different architectural layout. Though for fans of the classic skyscrapers of Manhattan, the original map is pretty much identical. In all fairness though, it's difficult to really top the towering skyscrapers of Manhattan in a Spider-Man video game, and I believe the new additions to the gameplay mechanics not only make traversing these new areas more enjoyable, but they also greatly change how players traverse the previously explorable areas as well. The web wings, for example, can be used to glide across the city now, and are accompanied by things like wind tunnels that can carry Miles and Peter at extremely fast speeds in and around buildings. Then there's the slingshot mechanic that players can use to fling themselves at max speed to clear multiple blocks within seconds, rather than needing to gradually build momentum from swinging like in the past. Speaking of which, the swinging has also been modified slightly, with lots of new animations and a rework to the overall speed and fluidity of the transitions, allowing players to do full loops, swing around corners, and fly through Times Square in nearly half the time needed before. Add on top of this the slingshot and web wings, and traversal around New York just feels so much better now. The game's stealth mechanics have also seen a slight rework for the sequel. In the previous game, stealth was limited to very specific elevated beams and rails in the area that would require the player to zip to points and take down sentries one by one whenever they were marked as safe. Though Spider-Man 2 makes these sequences even more interesting. Not only can you still perform all the old moves in the previous game, but players can now shoot out their own web lines over the environment, allowing for the freedom to really approach enemies from any direction. Then of course, we have the game's combat systems. Spider-Man's combat, like its stealth and core gameplay design, echoes some of the concepts introduced with the Batman Arkham games, keeping the controls simple enough to use, but ensuring that there's enough here for more dedicated players to master, ensuring that everyone can feel as effective a fighter as their favorite superhero. The control system here is mostly the same, with the same buttons for punches, uppercuts, swings, and other advanced moves. However, new to Spider-Man 2 are a set of special moves that can be activated by holding down one of the rear trigger buttons, and then a corresponding face button. For Peter, these moves typically involve his new symbiote suit, and will unleash powerful attacks that can decimate large groups of enemies quickly. Miles, on the other hand, has moves that involve his new bioelectric abilities, and typically involve arcing electricity between multiple enemies or triggering high-impact AoE attacks. Another big change are the attacks enemies can initiate against the player. The yellow attack indicator, for example, requires players to use the new parry system, and when perfectly timed, it can block the attack and stun the enemy temporarily. The blue indicator, on the other hand, needs to be avoided using a jump, as a normal dodge won't be enough to escape. This, coupled with the dozens of other attack options like special attacks, finishers, and the newly refined focus mode, make combat more involved than ever before, and make major story-driven boss encounters like this one with Lizard feel even more satisfying. Overall, Spider-Man 2 was a lot more fun than I was prepared for. I went into this event kind of wondering what they could possibly do to make this game stand out from its predecessor. I trusted Insomniac to make a quality game, but seeing the same New York backdrop with two characters we've already explored with their own independent games made the sequel feel as if it was just going to be a big expansion. But after getting some real hands-on time with the game, I'm now only disappointed that I can't play more of it sooner. Spider-Man 2 also seems to take full advantage of the PS5 in a way even the past two releases for the platform hadn't managed. Load times are incredibly fast. The frame rate felt consistently smooth, even at the demo's locked fidelity mode, and the general quality of the game world, while similar on the surface, really stands out as you're swinging through the city, as the LOD and draw distance provides a much greater sense of density this time around, especially now that there's an entire other half of the city being rendered between the skyscrapers that you're swinging through. Then there's the better incorporation of things like the DualSense controller, especially the adaptive triggers that are used for some of the game's puzzles, and the excellent use of 3D audio when playing using their Pulse 3D wireless headset, and the overall experience just feels much more impressive as a result. The demo inevitably ended on a cliffhanger that I immediately wanted to see resolved, and with all the side activities to experience, the great narrative beats of both Peter and Miles, coupled with the addictive new web wing and reworked stealth and combat systems, and I genuinely can't wait to pick up a copy of the final game this October. But what do you guys think? Are you excited for Spider-Man 2? What other questions do you have about the game? Let me know in the comments section. Also, if you'd like to learn more, I've included a link to the full written interview I had with the game's senior lead programmer, Doug Sheehan, in the description below. And be sure to like and subscribe to my channel for a comprehensive breakdown of the game's content and graphical features in the coming weeks.